How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? What's the real truth about Citizen Kane?
It'll probably turn out to be a very simple thing.
Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I'm Parker.
And I'm Max.
And welcome back to another episode of Better Than Citizen Kane, the highly subjective show where we look at a movie and ask that titular question. Because when every movie ever made is a reasonable contender for the title of greatest film of all time, you have to wonder, Better Than Citizen Kane.
This week I'm feeling a little under the weather, so Parker's going to read me a story he read to my dad when he was a kid. The temporal implications of these events almost certainly spells trouble for space-time as a whole, but before we can dive into that, we must first discuss Rob Reiner's 1987 family classic, The Princess Bride.
Very nice.
Would you say this is a family classic, Parker?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Again, we're not going to worry about for now, we're not going to worry about the temporal implications of what's about to happen. But if this episode seems a little quick, that's why.
That's past Parker's problem and future Max's problem.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. But if anyone's like, this episode seems like we're moving pretty quick, it's because we want to deal with that.
Yeah.
As soon as we can. But Parker, this is a family classic. You love this movie.
I do.
This is a 5-star movie for you. You saw it for the first time.
I couldn't even tell you when. Like,
yeah, it's just
always been always here. Like, probably 5 or 6 would be my guess.
Sure.
But like, yeah, there's not been a time in my life I don't remember having this movie around.
Nice. How has your relationship to this movie changed over the years, do you think? Or do you think it's been basically the same?
It's adjusted ever so slightly for sure. I think I probably would have gotten to this movie at some point, but I got to it a lot sooner because of growing up with an older sister. My sister Amanda really enjoyed this. And so I wanted to do everything she did. And so we watched this together a lot growing up. And so I think when I was younger, it was very specifically attached to like my relationship with my sister. And as I've grown up, like I've found an appreciation and a love for it completely on my own, in addition to kind of all those family memories with it. But yeah, it's pretty much stayed very high in my estimation. What about you?
Well, wonderful. Sorry, I had a thing in my throat for a minute there. I did see this when I was a kid, like a handful of times. I would say I've probably seen this 5 or 6 times.
Okay.
For this podcast being the 5th or 6th, I would say. It's just not something that we watched too often, and I have the privilege of being able to talk to my parents about, like I see them every day. So I was just like, hey, why didn't we watch this as much? Because I know there are so many people that I'm friends with who this is one of the core family texts.
Yeah.
Like, and also just a big thing in the culture in which you and I grew up, I would say. Like
very much
here
so.
in Utah, Idaho, particularly in, with the Mormon culture, Princess Bride is huge for some reason. And it's taking everything in me to not just make the episode about that discussion. Like, why do you think that is? But this just didn't, I talked to my parents about it. My mom was like, it came out when I was in high school. And she was like, came out when I was in high school. Just like everyone was talking about it, and I watched it so many times. By the time you guys were growing up, she's like, I had seen it. And for my dad, like he was like, yeah, it just always felt like his parents loved it. And so when he was in high school, he's like, it's like, it's not that cool. My parents love it.
Yeah.
And so there just wasn't this like deep-seated love from my parents for it. And so we just had other movies that we watched more often that fill a similar role. Totally. My dad and I watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail a lot. And also my family watched Stardust a lot. And I think those two movies kind of together fill the void of
I can kind of see that.
And so I just don't have a deep connection to this movie. That being said, I watched it. It's a great movie. It's great.
A great movie.
It is. There's a reason that so many of its lines became common memes for a period of like 10 to 15 years on the internet.
Sure.
There's a reason that it is as iconic as it is. There's a reason it's in the Criterion Collection. I like this movie. I just don't have that, that 5-star seal of love that we always talk about, of like what brings a movie to 5 stars. It's if you genuinely are so connecting with it.
Yeah.
And I just don't have that with this.
And that's okay.
Thank you, Parker. Thank you for allowing me that.
I do what I can.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it is a tight movie. Like it is just so funny and so I don't know, it almost just feels like I know it's not effortless, but you know when a movie feels effortless, where you're just like, yeah, they
Totally.
just knocked this. Like this is so simple, but that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean it's like silly, you know? Like
Yeah,
but it feels effortless, is what I'm saying. Like, would
totally.
you agree with that?
Very much so. It's kind of it's something that even the people who make it don't really understand, like William Goldman has talked about how there's just something about this particular piece. He's like, I get more responses on The Princess Bride than everything else I've done put together. He's like, there's
Yeah,
something about both the book and the film that like affects people on a very particular level that he's not even sure he can put into words.
yeah. I mean, I didn't even really realize what else he'd written.
Yeah.
And so, obviously there's a lot of movies in there that I haven't heard of,
Hmm.
that it seems like people are pretty mixed on, but he's got big ones like Butch
Yeah.
Cassidy and All the President's Men and the adaptation of Misery and this. And
Hmm.
um, I mean, again, it's just kind of like, have you read the book?
Um, I started reading the book when I was very young. I don't know that I ever finished it. Again,
Okay.
kind of Amanda had read it and I wanted to read it. I
Yeah.
feel like I must have finished it, but I remember mostly that it was very different.
Yeah, because that's kind of my question is like, this is such a comedy and
Yeah.
so funny and so kind of perfectly funny as a movie
Hmm.
that as I was watching it this time, I was like trying to imagine. I was like, "There's no way the book is exactly like that." Like, obviously, I know that like the framing device isn't in the book.
Yeah. They have a
Um.
different framing device in the book, which is very strange.
Oh, really? What's that?
So the idea in the book is that William Goldman is playing a character of himself in the book. Like he writes the foreword as a fictionalized version of himself. And
Right.
he's like, oh, The Princess Bride is written by a guy named S. Morgenstern. Like the actual title of the book is like The Princess Bride, S. Morgenstern's classic tale of true love and high adventure, the good parts version. Like that is the full title of this book. Um, and the framing device he has is that as an author, he is like, oh, I loved this book. My father read this to me all growing up when I was sick. Um, and like, I've never actually read the book. I've just had the book read to me. He's like, and when I had my son, he gives him a copy of the book and is mortified because the son reads one chapter and puts it down and just never picks it up again. And he's like, what's going on? He picks it up and he's like, oh, I didn't realize that like all of this is just a bunch of satire on politics in Morgenstern's native language, Florin. And he's like, and my
Okay.
dad had taken all of the he's like, he'd only taken the good parts out when he told me the story. So the fictional William Goldman's like, I'm going to write an adaptation that's just the good parts. So that's what the book is.
Okay.
He has
That's
this entire fanfic backstory
that's
about it.
fantastic. And also, I love. That's a really interesting. I mean, the movie then is a really great adaptation of the spirit of that,
Totally.
even if it's not like it's a more direct adaptation of the experience that the fictional Goldman is talking about
Hmm.
than it is. And that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just kind of watching this, I was like, how do you know if there was a lot of improv on set or anything? Like obviously, like with Billy Crystal being there, like
100%.
Billy Crystal and Carol Kane, I'm like that feels like that's
Well,
entirely.
specifically skipping ahead to that sequence,
Yeah,
like those two, as I understand, like went off on vacation together, came up with the entirety of their characters' backstories, came back, and Reiner basically just let them do what they wanted on
sure.
set. There was like basic beats they had to hit, but Mandy Patinkin, who plays Inigo Montoya, has said repeatedly in interviews, he's like, I did all my own stunt work except for like one somersault in the Westley duel. He's like, it was very important to me that I was very physically fit and into the fence scene. He's like, I did everything. He said, I had exactly one injury on the set of The Princess Bride, is that I bruised a rib from trying not to laugh at Billy Crystal doing his improv. He's like, I have to sit there being stoic. He's like, and it's true, I bruised a rib
Wow,
holding it in.
wow, that's nuts. Oh man. Okay, yeah. Let's go through cast because I mean, again, it's The Princess Bride.
Mm-hmm.
But just really quick, Carrie Elvis
Yep.
is wonderful in this. Parker, I'm curious if you have if you're aware that it seems several of your mannerisms, I think, are maybe pulled from Carrie
Interesting.
Ellis in this movie.
I could certainly see it. I don't know that I've ever mentally clocked it.
I don't know if this has ever come across on the podcast, but certain ways that you will say like, I feel like somehow when you were younger, you took in a good helping of Carrie Ellis as what is his name?
Wesley.
Wesley. I said it earlier. Oh man.
You did. You had it.
I feel like it somehow impacted your brain. There's a specific moment where he goes like, and like, you do that all the time.
I do that a lot. I tisk a lot.
I know that's like a lot of people tisk, but like I feel like, I don't know, as I was watching it this time, I was like, I wonder if Parker's aware. I feel like there's a chance.
I've never connected that, but
chance.
There's a very good chance. This is very early for me.
Anyone else out there knows Parker? And rewatch The Princess Bride and let me know if you see what I see.
Let's get Amanda on the phone. She'll know.
I'm calling him out.
Oh my God.
All of your charm is just stolen. Stolen valor.
Yeah, okay. That sounds about right.
Robin Wright as Buttercup. Wonderful. Lovely. And Mandy Patinkin as Inigo Montoya.
Yeah.
Is this a Nacho Libre situation where he just kind of gets away with it?
You know, I've thought about it long and hard, and like, I think it's like 50-50. You know, like he's very much doing the accent. He's shooting for a very typical Spaniard, but then like, I remember looking this up when I was younger because I was like, do I need to feel weird about this? And like, a lot of people are like, there's white Spaniards out there. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And so I put it kind of like 50-50, where I'm like, I think in the context of what this is and the fact that he's not doing brown face for it, I think this is fine. You know?
Yeah.
It's a broad stroke fairy tale kind of story.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I just think he kind of, if there were to be any gripes, I think he just kind of gets away with it.
Yeah.
Which is my way of saying that I'm like,
yeah,
it's an iconic enough performance that you kind of go, yeah,
totally.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not Alec Guinness in Lawrence of Arabia, who, in my opinion, was sleepwalking through that.
Fair.
Anyway. I mean, Andre the Giant. Wonderful. Wallace Shawn.
Yeah.
I forget that he's not in. Is this one of those characters where like people don't remember how little he's in it because he makes such an impact?
He just he's huge, and people are like, oh, he's in like the rest of the movie, right? It's like, no, he's in like maybe 10 minutes of it.
Yeah. He just makes such a strong impression that you just forget that he literally dies at the end of that scene.
Totally.
Also,
a quick note for any of our YouTube watchers. I have kidney stones right now, and sitting down is kind of killing me. So I'm going to turn off my camera, and I'm just going to pace while we talk. So if I disappear for anybody watching, just so you know, I'm not abandoning the conversation. I just have to move, otherwise I will die.
Yeah, Parker looks like he's dying a little bit. Rip to Parker.
Pour one out for the kidney stones.
Pour one out for Parker. Preferably a lot of water.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so I think Patinkin's great. You were talking about Wallace Shawn. Again, like you said, he is kind of iconic somehow in this for being in it so little.
Andre the Giant's performance. What do you think?
I think for what it is, I think it's very charming. I think it gets the job done. I know he was very nervous about it because he's French and didn't really speak English. And so a lot of this is kind of trying to get the phonetics of it. But I think he's very charming. Like I really can't picture anyone else in the role.
No, not at all. I think also what really works for the performance is, like, again, it's not like a great acting performance, but I think what really works is his character is quite literally supposed to stand out quite a bit. And like, I think that a lot of the charm that he has almost feels like, I don't know, some elements of this, and I know this is kind of, I know this literally happened during the pandemic, but parts of The Princess Bride does feel like people putting on like a little production.
Oh, totally.
And like, that's obviously what they're going for. Like, all the sets feel very storybook, literally. Like, it looks a certain way, it feels a certain way. And I think that in the world, of like Florin and within the book, I think that his performance really works for
I
what
agree.
for what the
I
movie's
think
going
that's a
for.
very good observation.
Yeah, I had forgotten how much the sets look just like sets, and I think that's perfect. I think that was a really great call.
It's one
On
of my
this.
favorite creative choices they make in the whole thing is just like fully embracing the aesthetic of being fake. Like they're
Yeah,
not interested in trying to be at all realistic in any of this, and I think that is fully to the movie's benefit, you know?
yeah, absolutely. I had forgotten it was Peter Falk as the
Yeah.
grandfather, and I was overjoyed.
Yep.
Um,
I thought you'd be excited about that.
yeah, and I was. I'd forgotten it was him.
Oh, good.
Again, like the simplicity. Okay, kind of getting into the summary a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
The simplicity and just like efficiency of the mother coming in and talking to her son,
Yeah.
and just like that's all the setup you need. Like
Mm-hmm.
they don't overdo it. I almost watching this, I was like, if this were made today, first of all, it would lean way more into kind of the postmodern kind of
Totally.
parody of it. And I think that what is really surprising to me about this movie is that it isn't a parody. It
No, not
has
really.
a sincerity. It's obviously funny and silly, but the jokes aren't at the expense of the genre, if that makes sense.
Not at all.
Like they're not like being like, oh, isn't this a little ridiculous? It's like all of the characters are sincere in their world.
Totally.
I think the closest we get to that is like the initial love scenes with Buttercup and Wesley, but because Mark
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Knopfler's score is just going nuts, and you're
Yeah,
like,
going
yeah,
freaking crazy.
this feels and looks like covers of romance novels. But again, even in that situation, it still feels very sincere, and you have the grandfather taking the side of that sincerity.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know. So watching it this time, I was like, if this were made today, it would lean way more into that parody nonsense. And also, I feel like someone would not be able to resist the urge to have characters come to the real world or something like that. Or
I like
like or
I think
like
about
we
that a
see
lot.
we see more of the kids' family members and it's the cast of the Princess Bride are playing his aunts
Mm-hmm.
and uncles or whatever. Like, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's absolutely a version of this that has much more Wizard of Oz type elements in that
Yeah,
regard of blurring reality and fantasy. And I really do love that this is just firmly planted in like these are the characters, this is the story. Like it would be so easy to have them like stop and turn and look at camera whenever like Fred Savage stops the story or whatever. And I'm
right.
just glad they don't do any of that.
Yeah. It's again, it's just kind of like they don't that's extra stuff. They don't need
Right.
extra stuff. This movie is kind of exactly where it needs to be in tone and in what it's showing us and in how often Fred Savage interrupts. I feel like again that's another device that could have been very annoying if not handled correctly, but like he like the story stops at very opportune moments, like when
Mm-hmm.
Wesley dies. I think that almost kind of like the Muppet movie. It kind of reminded me of is like we're getting to this kind of climactic point and we get kind of like this cut back to younger character being like, is that really
Yeah.
what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
um it's kind of just a nice little breathing moment. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just very impressed at like kind of, but again, I don't know if it's a question of restraint because I don't know if all of these things that I'm talking about now had been established by 1987 as
Sure.
like common things. But anyway, just refreshing that this movie isn't annoying. I
Well, I
guess you
think
could say.
that's like I truly think that is part of the universal appeal of the film and why it has stood the test of time and will stand the test of time is that I think there are other films that try to dabble in that very postmodern fairy tale space that become too much of a time capsule for that particular era.
Right.
Whereas nothing here, aside from like what we see in the kid's bedroom, is really screaming 80s, right? Like they are
No.
so fully trying to get the aesthetics and the tone of, a classic Errol Flynn, 30s, 40s swashbuckler. Like this is
Right.
firmly 50 to 40 years behind itself. And because of that, it gives it a lot more leeway, I think, as it ages.
Yeah. No, definitely. It has a timeless quality that feels intentional.
Right.
Which again, I just feel like was the right choice there.
I agree.
But okay, so framing device set up. We get the As You Wish sequence and Buttercup and Westley falling in love. Just two beautiful blonde people falling in love, which is, I feel like you don't see as much.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I feel like movies are usually like, we should have a few different hair colors. And I go, yeah, okay. It's fine. I mean, it's fine. Like, I don't have any opinion on this. This isn't me being like,
you
this
sure
is good,
this sounds a lot like you have opinions about this.
Oh no. Oh no. Parker, get back to pacing. Don't pay attention to what I'm saying.
Dude, I'm hopping up and down right now. I'm sure this is a lovely audio experience.
Not hearing it. So
oh, good. Continue.
Yeah, this is good vibes. So sequence of them falling in love. I think they have good chemistry. I think, again, just kind of as like good classic romance story. Very good. 5-year time jump. And then okay, I do want to say that I think Chris Sarandon is underrated in this.
Absolutely.
I say because I just feel like people don't talk about him as much, but I think he's nailing it exactly what he's supposed to do.
No, he's killing it. Also, there's one or two very specific line reads he has that like just slap me in the face and grab me by the lapels, and it's like, I'm Jack Skellington, you know. There's just one or two in there where I suddenly remember.
Right. You're like, huh. That's the Skeleton King. Yeah. The Pumpkin King. I'm sorry.
The Pumpkin King.
I'm sorry. Also, Christopher Guest is very good as the Six-Fingered Man.
Christopher Guest.
He is doing a performance that feels like it's either pulling from something that's also very iconic, or just a lot of people pulled from him.
Yeah, I mean, he's very like, Basil Rathbone. You know, like there's a lot of that going on.
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know Basil Rathbone?
Explain who that is.
Basil Rathbone, he like was the first real cinematic Sherlock Holmes. He did a bunch of those serials.
Oh, gotcha.
He was like, he's Guy of Gisborne in Adventures of Robin Hood. He's like, Bob Anderson, the guy who did the sword fights for this, said that Basil Rathbone was the greatest swordsman he ever knew. Like, he's like, that dude knew how, like, he took Errol Flynn aside during Robin Hood to, quote, teach him the finer points of fencing.
Wow.
So he is like the swashbuckler villain. And it feels like a lot of what Guest is doing is playing around with that.
Yes, absolutely. And he's doing it he's just very sniveling. He's very, I like him a lot. I like those two a lot in this movie. I almost wish there was like a little bit more of them together, but there's also a perfect amount of them. I don't think this movie is.
I really love the scene of them by the tree. It's just that entire exchange is really like just the odd coupleness, like the married couple energy between these two is really funny to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, so Buttercup is kidnapped by the three, as we know. Again, just like an iconic trio. Name a more iconic trio? Question mark. Who knows? Again, go ahead.
I was just saying they cast Wallace Shawn in part because they wanted a very stark contrast between him and Andre.
Yes.
And so Danny DeVito's was in talks at one point to play that role as well.
Oh, gotcha.
Which would have been a very interesting flavor.
Yeah, I think he would have. I don't think that necessarily goes against what the character is, but I think it would have been a different flavor, like you're saying. It would have been interesting to see that. Yeah. Again, just love how the boats look so fake. Like, again, it's just so enjoyable how fake the boats are.
Just like not even moving. They're just completely stationary in that tank.
It looks like a kit you'd build for your kid in your backyard. It's really good. It's fantastic. I'd forgotten about the eels as well. The eels are great.
The eels.
The eels are such a fun
some good critters in this movie, man.
There's some good critters, and I'd forgotten about that. I think that the eels just look really great for their brief moment. Like, we only get really like one good look at one as it comes at her. Also, just, you know, I think we're both on the same page. We're just going to avoid quoting as much as
I
possible.
think we're gonna try. We're gonna try our very best.
But it's still, I had forgotten about it, and it cracks me up. The like looking behind him, and he's like, "Why do you ask?" And he goes, "Well, there's something behind us." It's like that's just a good punchline to that. I butchered it. See, that's why I remembered it. I will say this, even though I don't have like a huge connection to this movie, as a kid, I was always like, "Oh man, like." I wanted to be an action figure kid. There was like a brief stage where I remember very distinctly being like, I want to have action figures.
Totally.
And I had like, you know, some superhero stuff and like some Transformers, whatever. But I remember at some point, maybe from a thrift store or something, like an antique store, or I don't know where it came from. But at some point, my dad was like, here's this. And it was like a posed figure of Dread Pirate Roberts. And like in like kind of a like an action pose, but he couldn't move.
Okay.
And yet I was thrilled because it was like it looked like what in my mind an action figure should look like. Where it was like more of just like a very realistic recreation of him in like one pose, and he couldn't move, but I was like always thrilled by that. And so every time Dread Pirate Roberts shows up, I go, that was one of those, it's one of my memorable toys from when I was a kid. It's just this frozen in like locked in position of Westley. It's great. Love that whole chase. Them climbing up the rope is so funny. Do you know anything about how they did the rope climbing for Andre with?
So Andre
the wides are clearly.
So it's this is very interesting because Andre had undergone back surgery right before all of this and just was like in miserable pain this whole time and couldn't lift, like despite him being, you know, a wrestler, he couldn't lift anybody. Like the scene where he catches Buttercup, she's on cables, so he's not actually carrying any of her weight. And same sort of thing here is like all those close-ups are basically everybody else on harnesses that aren't connected to him that are just like keeping level with him as if they're strapped together, basically. So all of the exteriors are done. Cliffs of Dover, I think. Yeah. And then just the really gorgeous matte painting they have of like the sheer rock face is really fantastic.
It really is. Those wides were also kind of cracking me up a little bit of just like this man climbing this rope, and like there it looks like there's like a bald mannequin head or something.
No, there's all sorts of stuff
imply
like that.
Visiti. And I just, that really got me.
Later on, when Buttercup pushes Westley down the hill and it reveals his identity, she goes throwing him after. You could just see that's just a full-on bearded stuntman in her dress, just throwing himself down that hill, and it's very funny.
Oh, that's great. They get to the top, and Inigo is told to wait for him. And again, just, I mean, it's one of the great comedic conversations in a film probably ever. It's just these guys.
Yeah, these two guys great.
Talking is so funny until he even gets over the cliff. Like even then, it's just really funny. I think it's really interesting how they choose to slowly bring Roberts closer to us.
Yeah.
And like, there's never really like this like close up reveal where we're like clearly supposed to know that it's him. Like it just kind of slowly comes at us of like, now he's here, now we're seeing him closer up, and like you can tell it's him, but like I don't know, like I just think that's a really interesting approach, that there isn't that kind of like you know, like they know that we know what we know.
To quote Lin-Manuel Miranda.
From a sword fight standpoint, Parker, I know was this a huge influence for you when you were making the Crimson Bounder?
Huge. Yep. I think this was, I took like 4 or 5 major sword fights that I loved, and I watched them one shot at a time and wrote out how they were put together. I'm like, okay, this is the close up, this is the wide, they do this. And this was the first one I started with. And like, there's a technical prowess to this of both Cary Elwes and Manny Patinkin trained so that they could do it both right and left-handed. And I think it's great. Like, none of that feels weaker than any other aspect. Like they're fully set. Bob Anderson encouraged them to learn each other's half of the fight so that they would fully anticipate each other. There would never be any accidents. And specifically like that whole team of like fight choreographer Bob Anderson, Patinkin and Elwes specifically, like their goal together as a trio is like, we want this to be something that other movie fights can look at and see all the things they're doing wrong. Like they wanted to be very, very meticulous of like Anderson's big thing. And it's so funny if you're in the world of, enjoying film and you watch all these behind the scenes documentaries, Bob Anderson's everywhere, man. Like just every doc you ever watch of an adventure movie, Anderson was there. And across all of these disparate productions, one of his like ethoses was that he's like, hey, it needs to be practical. It needs to look real. He's like, but it also has to be entertaining. Like it's still a dance. I don't want it to just be an Olympic fencing duel where, one move happens and it's over. He's like, it's still telling the story. It still needs to be wildly entertaining. It just also needs to be technically competent.
Yeah.
Which I think all of the fights in this absolutely achieve that. Like they certainly set the standard.
Yeah. And again, like I feel like that's something where it's like, looking at this movie, you probably wouldn't guess that there was this like incredibly well put together sword fight that like the intention is we want this to be as perfect as can be so that other people can look to it as like a lesson. And yet, that's what The Princess Bride has in it. Like that's just also in this movie.
Crazy.
Nuts. I do love them talking about, again, it's kind of the perfect example of kind of poking fun at this, but also not. Like, again, it feels genuine to the character. It doesn't feel like it's taking the movie down a peg when Inigo first is like, do you have six fingers on your right hand? And Westley is like, do you always start a conversation this way? And like, that is kind of the perfect amount of like, what?
Tongue-in-cheekness, totally.
Yeah, like it doesn't need to be like, get a load of this guy, It's just kind of like, that's enough because that feels like something someone would say within the scene.
I think, but absolutely. And something like my favorite version of that is surprising, like, again, an infinitely quotable movie, but I find that this one doesn't get used as often. And it might be my favorite delivery in the movie is while they're having the conversation on the cliffs, Wesley tells him, he's like, that's very kind of you, but I'm afraid you're just going to have to wait. And just Inigo under his breath says, I hate wait. Like it's just it's a quick throwaway little moment, but like that feels like such a real response to me. Like that's a real person. Like I hate waiting.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It is really good. Again, it's just so tight. Like it's just like there's no like as a screenwriter watching this, I'm like, how can I not even necessarily just in like a comedy environment, but just like how can you ensure that like every line isn't wasted?
Totally.
And this is a movie where it really feels like there isn't a line that is wasted.
No, not the slightest.
Like if there's room for a joke or there's room for a sincere moment or anything, like it's there. And there's not really a scene where you're like, that's a little too long or anything. Like, I don't know. It's just like the lines all feel very lean. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. It is. I think it's one of the great American screenplays, truly. Like I think Goldman kills it.
Yeah. So fight. He moves on against sportsman with Andre the Giant. I do love like the rock hitting the wall and Wesley turning in his Andre the Giant being like, I didn't miss.
It's true.
I could have been here. Like just launches directly into that.
Yeah.
And I really like how Cary Elwes plays. Like you can see that he's afraid. Like
totally.
This is not a stoic character in that sense. Like he's very emotional, like emotionally open in all of these fights and scenes. There's like a mention of it's earlier when Vizzini says, or do you want to go back to where I found you in Greenland?
Unemployed in Greenland.
Oh yes. And there's like these funny moments where like they ground it in the real world.
Yeah.
Which is just incredibly funny to me every single time.
The one that really does get me is during his rant, and he just tosses and he's like, you follow for one of the classic blunders. Most well known is never get involved in a land war in Asia.
Yes.
It's just, yeah. I like the real world sniffing it every once in a while.
That line really got me. I'm glad that you remember that. 'Cause I don't know if I'm going to remember all of them, but that one
Yeah.
really got me.
A land war in
um,
Asia. It's
yeah,
good. It's good.
so good. It's really good. Yeah. So chokes out Andre the Giant, whose character name I keep forgetting.
Fezzik.
Fezzik. Thank you. I couldn't
Mhm.
remember. Faces Wallace Shawn. We get that fantastic scene.
Mhm.
Um, the switching of the goblets is great. It's just anything, anything you'd like to say
I mean,
about
I like
maybe one of the most iconic scenes from the movie.
it's shocking to me how well Wallace Shawn just like cuts off the oxygen to his face. Like as he's laughing, he just turns like purple.
Yeah,
Like he just there's something crazy about like this dude somehow enacted that like his body is shutting down before his brain realizes. And just that final shot of him just cackling and then flopping over is just again
yes,
incredible comedic timing.
it is. It's really good. Um, yeah, it's just really good. And then obviously the button on it of I've been building up an immunity to iocane powder over the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good. They run off, and then we get kind of Chris Sarandon and Christopher Guest coming after them, which is great.
Yep.
There's a
Do
few
you
different. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna ask because like again, I don't have any experience with this past like childhood. Do you happen to remember the first time you watched this? Like, is there a moment where it hands off to you that Humperdinck is the bad guy? Like, do you get that immediately, or is it like, oh well, this is going on and like he's kind of cold and she doesn't love him, but like he seems fine aside from that.
I. That's a good question. I mean, even this time, I had forgotten that he hired them to kill her.
Mm,
I had forgotten that, so I don't. I
mhm.
don't know how clear that's ever been to me,
Okay, there you
or at
go.
least over the last little bit. I think that the handoff feels like up to this point, I still don't. I would say at this point, like I don't view him as the villain. I would say it's not until I mean, I would almost say it's not until they throw Wesley into the pit of despair, which
Yeah, I
feels
was
like
gonna
that's
say
when
it,
it
it
kind
feels
of
like
comes forward.
textually it's after the fire swamp, right?
Yes.
I've always known he's been the bad guy, so I'm always
Right.
curious. Like I was watching at this time, I was like, when does like I know when the script clues you in, but like, does anybody else clock this earlier?
I I I clock him as an antagonist in the classic sense of
Right.
he goes against the goals of our protagonists,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't say I see him as villainous until after the fire swamp, I guess.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I will say Christopher Guest always feels like the what's that meme that's been going around like conniving eunuch or whatever? Like I'm always like,
Yeah. Yeah.
my liege, look at your eunuch. He's clearly conniving.
He's clearly conniving.
What I didn't know is that my liege is in league with the
Mm.
man.
Well,
Um, yeah, so there's a few scenes here of them talking. Parker, do you stand by Wesley almost hitting Buttercup? Do you stand by that?
I'm gonna have to go on record and say no. But
What
this
do you
brings up
think?
go ahead.
What do you? Oh, go. Oh,
I was
you
just
go
gonna
ahead.
ask like what do you think of like that dynamic that they have of like he seems genuine like when he comes and rescue her, it fully feels like he's kind of just getting back at an ex. He's just like, "Hey, you
Yeah,
left me. Like
like I
you
was.
abandoned me."
Yeah, like I was gonna ask you a very similar thing of like, what do you think is going on in Wesley's head here? Because up to that point, it feels like he's there to rescue her, and then there's like
Mm-hmm.
this brief sequence in which he's very mad at her,
Yeah.
and then they fall down the hill, and it's fine. I mean, before they fall down the hill, it's her saying, I died the day that he died.
Yeah. And I think that's like it
That's
seems like he is testing her love of he's like, "Hey, like
yeah,
I told you I was going to wait for you and then I hear you're marrying the prince?" Like
yeah,
I think that's part of it is just like he talks about like the scene he has with her right before the push makes me feel like it's genuine for him because he goes on he's like your faithfulness, madam, like your undying faithfulness he spoke of. And he just goes off on a rant about that. And he's like, "Oh, did you
yeah,
wait like, did you get engaged within the hour or did you wait a whole week out of respect for the dead?" Like that's the part that feels to me like he's genuinely like that's his reason for being here.
yeah. I would almost, I would almost say that that is the piece of the movie that works the least for me.
Mm,
I don't know why. I always forget that there's ever a moment. Like I don't dislike it as a beat for him and for their relationship that he would come back like upset and angry. But also it's been 5 years. And I think
Sure.
she says something along those lines, does she? Of like, no, I don't think she does. But like, I don't know, like it just that energy coming into this almost puts me off of him at first.
Sure.
Or I'm like, is he playing the role of Dread Pirate Roberts? Like, is that why it feels
I
so
think in some
aggressive?
ways for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I think that's the sequence that feels. I don't know. It's the part that it's not even that I'm like, wow, I can't believe he almost hit her. Bad
Yeah,
movie. It's not that. It's just that I'm like, I just can't make it work in the way that I want it to.
that makes
Of
sense.
like, I think you're right. Like right towards the end, it feels like, oh, he's being very sincere. Like he is
Yeah.
sincerely hurt by this.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost am like, he like has this rage in him. I guess. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And then they fall down the hill, and once that's done, I'm like, all right, great. Like
I can
moving
totally see
along.
what you're saying. Like that makes a ton of sense to me. I think with my experience with it, it's brief enough that I just kind of move past it. Like
Well,
if that
yeah.
was like a major
Again,
B plot of the movie, I think it'd be
right.
like, all right, well, this is
Yeah.
getting to be a bit much.
It it's teetering on the edge of like misunderstanding between character
Totally. Yeah.
annoyance.
So the
But
fact that it's
again,
just like a scene of him
it's
being kind of
a
testy.
scene and then they move right along, and I think
Yeah,
that is what allows, again, I feel like it is the movie going like, we can't sustain this for very long, we need to keep
totally.
moving, and I acknowledge that. I don't think it's
Yeah,
like a genuine like hang up for the film, because I feel like the film even recognizes it and moves on appropriately.
sure.
The stunt performers falling down the hill is very funny.
Yeah.
um just a good laugh from
Just
that.
how long they hold it too.
Yeah,
Like they're
yep.
just falling for like
Again,
20 seconds
good
straight.
comedic timing. And in order to change that from me going, oh, that's so funny, to something more maybe intelligent and intellectual, they hold the comedic timing for an appropriate amount of time, Parker.
Indeed, they do. I would agree.
Great comedic timing. Would you agree?
Indeed, I would.
Fire Swamp goes hard.
Mm-hmm. Love the fire swamp.
It's great. I love the gag of once they're more comfortable with the spurts of fire that he can just move her. Is
Uh,
really quite funny.
they were filming this sequence, and William Goldman came on set for the first time. And they're doing this bit. And again, he wrote the script. Do you think he would know? But just they're filming, and they go action, and they're walking through, and her dress catches on fire, and Goldman goes, "Fire! Fire! She's on fire!" Like freaks out, and Rob just goes, "Cut!" he's like, "Will, you can't be on set anymore." Like, it's just funny that the screenwriter's like, "Oh my gosh, she's on fire! Oh my god,
Yeah, you did this.
you did this.
You did this." She didn't say. All right, we can't. I will say really quick, just since you mentioned Rob Reiner, this is our second Rob Reiner film on the
Yes.
podcast.
Mhm.
We're in a good run of those, because last time we talked about the Social Network, which was our second venture.
Mhm.
We did two ventures within a month, within
Yeah.
like a month of each other. But this is our second Rob Reiner. How do you think? What do you think of the direction of this? And what
I
do you
think it's
think of what do you,
fantastic.
yeah? What do you think of
Like,
Rob Reiner as a director?
I like Rob Reiner consistently floats around my top 5. Like
Okay,
genuinely. Like I love When Harry Met Sally. I love this. I really enjoy Spinal Tap. The only reason he's not in my Mount Rushmore is that like I haven't seen the latter half of his catalog at all. Like anything
yeah.
post like 2002, I'm just unfamiliar with. But like the fact that this guy can do this and A Few Good Men is shattering to me.
Oh yeah,
I'm
I
like,
forgot he did that.
he's got range.
I
He
mean,
can do it all.
that's like that golden age of Hollywood kind of diversity, and like
Absolutely.
that's not something you see very
Yeah,
often
that's like a
later.
Michael Curtiz level of
Yeah, that's
just
like you're like Howard Hawks, and
hmm
yeah,
yeah. So like
wow.
I'm just consistently impressed by his body of work, and I think this is great. I think he has such a good balance of dry New York comedic irony mixed with just like aching sincerity in all of his
Yeah.
stuff. But like this particular, like I think that's what makes him so suited for this material is that it's not that you are getting someone who does period pieces to come and do a comedy, and it's not that you're getting a comedic director to do period piece, you get somebody who knows how to do both. Like he can do, like you said, you have the sweeping score, and it is just the most melodramatic thing you've ever seen in your life, and it works. And likewise, Billy Crystal improving it up in old age makeup feels fine and doesn't break the tone at all. He can make a joke about an MLT, and you're like, yeah, that's part of the world we're living in. Mutton, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. Great.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think of the direction?
I think it's well directed because I can't think of anything that really stood out to me in like camera movement or like visual in that sense, but like in a true sense of like a good director, in that like the visual storytelling is so solid that you don't think about it.
Yeah.
Right. Like I feel like there's probably a few different kinds of like what people consider a great director. And I think the most common one is someone who's very flashy with the camera.
Yeah.
Another one is, just for the film bros, a man who's made a lot of movies that are considered good, and they go, well, who's the best? Not really thinking too much, it's often that's true, but anyway. If a man is famous and he's a director, then that means he's a good director.
Sure.
But I think that oftentimes more so it's the flashiness, but I think the most undersung of a great director is someone who just knows how to show you a story.
Totally.
And your brain doesn't even like does that, I don't know. I think I don't have to elaborate any further, but I think that's how Rob Reiner functions for me. That's the kind of great director that he is.
I agree.
Having only seen, I think, this and When Harry Met Sally of his films, I can't think of any more off the top of my head. But yeah, I think this is a very well directed film in that sense.
Yeah.
Just want to have a quick Rob Reiner corner.
Totally. Misery was the other one I was trying to remember. He also did Misery.
Oh, he also directed Misery.
Yeah.
So that was a reteaming of him and William Goldman then.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So Fire Swamp. ROUSs as well. Well, this quicksand. Quicksand effect is really impressive. Yeah. Very good. I hate that we get a close-up of Buttercup coughing and like sand comes out of her mouth when she coughs. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, it's rough.
That's rough out there.
Rough out there for Robin Wright. And then we get the RUSs, who are clearly people.
And I love that. Like, genuinely, I love the like anatomically correct human knees in the back. Like, it's really good. One of the stunt performers tells a story in the making of where he was late and he was on his way to work and it was the first day being RUSs and it got pulled over for speeding. And the officer, he's like, officer, like, I'm so sorry. It's my first day. Like, I'm just trying to get to work. And he's like, really? What do you do? He's like, you're not going to believe me. He's like, no, where are you heading? He's like, I'm going to Warner Brothers to be a rat. And the cop just let him go. He's like, okay, yeah,
go. They're gross.
Yeah.
Rats.
So the close,
not cops. Well,
yeah. The close-up shot of Wesley like holding its jaws open and the tongue flailing around.
Hated that. Ugh, terrible. Also just hate, I don't know, it's just kind of wild that it just like fully like bites into him.
Oh yeah.
Like twice. And
he gets gnarly in this.
Yeah.
Like he's all bloody on the shoulder and everything.
Yeah. There's I mean, as far as like action hero who gets very bloody, looks great. Buttercup does stand there for quite a long time just watching this happen, though, I will say.
It's one of those things that I go back and no, but like genuinely, like I go back and forth on Buttercup specifically as a character a bit in this movie, like, and then I have to keep remembering that like it's a storybook. They're drawing, like they're painting with such a broad stroked brush, and they do some like it's not that she's completely inactive through the story, but like there are moments where I'm like, do something, please. Which again, I think that has nothing to do with anybody making the movie and just more the story that's being told. You know,
it's the genre within.
It's very classical,
which they're working in.
Yeah.
Rats gross.
Yeah, gross rats.
Get out of there, and then obviously they get taken by Chris Sarandon, who's not in a ton of movies.
No. I
hadn't really noticed that before, but he's just not in ton. Anyway, apparently I'm just big on Chris Sarandon in this movie. I didn't realize until this episode recording.
Hell yeah.
Back to the castle. Very funny. All the booing that happens in the dream is very funny.
That scarred me as a child. I was scared of that scene for
Okay.
like half a decade.
Is this okay? Interesting. Because because Parker, what's the behind the scenes documentary that scarred you?
It's called As You Wish. It's on the DVD. It's on the Criterion Blu-ray as well. And basically they're doing a making of documentary. And throughout this documentary, they will say things and then they will cut to clips from the movie that has
It's
to do with what they're talking about.
it's classic like BTS documentary editing of like, oh,
Totally.
we'll use the movie as like a funny
Yeah.
way to like relate to what the people are saying, like making fun little quirky comments. The
Or
movie's
like,
commenting
yeah,
on what the people are saying, basically.
they'll say something along the lines of like William Goldman being like, yeah, I wrote it very wordy, and then people really didn't understand it, and it'll cut to Inigo Montoya going, why do you keep using that word? That doesn't
Yeah.
even mean it's that kind of editing.
Yes, exactly.
So I am probably seven or eight, and I am alone downstairs, and the sun has gone down. So it's just me in the family room in the dark,
Also called
watching.
nighttime.
Yeah, and they also come nighttime.
And the sun had gone down.
And I'm probably like 6 to 7 inches away from this TV screen, just like glued to this thing as a kid and watching it. And at a certain point, they talk about how they were pitching the project around town and nobody wanted it. And without warning, it just cuts to the close up of the old woman with the music like blasting behind it, just going, bah! And it scared the shit out of me. Like I ran up my stairs, slammed the door, and like for 7 or 8 years, I would not watch that scene. I would just skip it.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
Sad little Parker.
Sad little Parker.
It does just crack me up. Yeah, I mean, she looks scary. Her eyebrows are quite spooky.
Yeah,
she's scary.
Eyebrows.
The woman who yells "boo." Once again, I'd forgotten it was a dream sequence, and I just really got a kick out of this woman who knows way too much about what happened.
Yeah, just all the details.
And I was like, oh, that's really funny. And then it was a dream, and I was like, that's still funny, but that makes more sense.
Yeah, it makes
way more sense.
But damn, if that isn't funny.
Yeah. The torture machine is quite disturbing. That would have scared me more as a kid, I think, if I had seen that more regularly. Too. It's scary. It's just weird. I don't like the water of it. Freaks me out.
Yeah, the sound, like whatever they do to like the distortion of Wesley's voice when he screams.
Yeah.
It's like deeply upsetting.
Yeah. And that man who's down there who is like, yeah, I'm gonna torture you. That guy is also a little spooky. That's a spooky scene.
That's another like that moment, and the one you were talking about earlier of the do you always start conversations this way? Like the moment where he tries to do the voice and then just immediately drops to like a Brooklyn accent or whatever,
Well, yeah. Well, doesn't he he clears his throat because he's doing like
and then he's like don't even try it, man.
Yeah. Yeah, again, that's another moment where it that's just funny.
Yeah.
And it feels like we lost sight of that's funny enough. We don't need it to then be like imagine if a guy talks normal.
I do find it very interesting, and I don't know enough about this topic to like even delve into it, but I will just toss it in for a moment of I do find it very telling that back in like 2017 or whatever, they released the PG-13 cut of Deadpool specifically around this framing device.
Yes. Yeah, with like, Fred Savage.
That's very telling to me about like where postmodernism is now versus then. And the fact that like this is still a tool that we use because it gives us cachet, it gives us respectability.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Yeah, I believe it was called Once Upon a Deadpool. Parker.
No, I couldn't tell you.
The PG-13 recut of Deadpool 2. That is interesting, and also is kind of like that's kind of I'm glad you brought that up because that is kind of like a highlight of I think what we're kind of talking about here is like if you make The Princess Bride today, it would feel a lot more like Deadpool.
Totally.
I imagine. I agree. Or maybe who knows? Maybe it would be like Jack Black in Minecraft. Who knows? Who knows what it would be like? Just people saying things. Anyway, whatever. That's what all movies are, Max. All right, so he's being tortured. They pretend to send the ships out. We get the scene at the tree, which you mentioned earlier, which is very funny. We get the reveal of like, he's like, when I hired them to kill her. And I think I literally went like very quietly, but I was like, I forgot.
A gentle gasp.
Is there anything in this kind of part of it? Because he dies, they turn it up to 50, because Buttercup is being indignant about getting married, and so he just I do love the way that Christopher Guest says not 50. And he dies. Cutting back to Inigo Montoya being drunk. It's so interesting that it takes so long for them to kind of come back into the movie, because I think there's just this idea of like they're there through the whole thing, and Wallace Shawn is there too, and you go no. Yeah, I mean, do you have anything to say about kind of coming back to them, and then they go looking for Westley because he's the only one who can really help them take down the six-fingered man? We got the reveal at a certain point that Christopher Guest has 6 fingers.
Yeah. Yep. It's all good stuff. It's getting us where we need to go. I think they do a really good job with the pacing of the cutbacks to Fred Savage, like getting more and more invested and getting more and more sincere about it, which I really love. It's like very well paced in that regard. Because I really like, there's, I'm not going to say it's, up to the level of like child acting in E.T., but like there are genuine like moments in his delivery that do get me. And I like specifically like just the kind of quiet tenderness of being like, well, he's not really dead. Right? Like he's just faking it. Like there's something very like emotionally sincere about that scene, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's the right amount of, it's the right touch of emotionality. And he does do a good job there. Yeah. So they go, he's dead. They take him to Miracle Max. And this is, I mean, do we have anything more to say about Miracle Max and Carol Kane?
It's just kind of, it's the Billy Crystal hour.
It just kind of, it certainly is.
They also said that this was the most expensive scene to film because they just kept rolling on it. Like there's just hours of this stuff of him just going crazy to the point that they had to kick Rob off the set because he kept ruining takes from laughing. And so the first AD's like, Rob, go back to your trailer. Like, we have to get this done. And it feels like you could just tell. I think like everybody in that scene is having a really good time. There's a lot of really great behind the scenes footage of just like Carrie Elwes trying to be dead on that table and just like doubling over because just she can't take it anymore.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. And I really like kind of the second stage of that when Carol Kane comes out. Like it's just a lot of fun.
So good. That was another one that like I had not. We talk about, I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast yet, but like you and I, at least in life, have talked about like the importance of exposing children to actors who they would like are just very big actors, just in context you wouldn't know. Like so much of like my affinity for certain actors comes from stuff like that of like, the Spy Kids franchise just introduced me to so many incredible talents that I'm like, they were in Spy Kids? And I kind of feel that way of like, this is probably the first thing I ever saw Carol Kane in and had no idea it was Carol Kane.
Yeah.
And she's great.
Absolutely. She's great. Yeah. I will say the MLT line is funny, but that is also kind of the closest we get to this movie feeling dated.
Sure.
Is Billy Crystal improv. Like, I think it's good, and I don't want the movie without it. But I do think like they're aiming for timelessness, and like you said, it kind of shifts to, well, Billy Crystal's here now, and you go,
oh, Billy Crystal's here,
and like it's great that it's Billy Crystal. I love Billy Crystal. This is a great period to have Billy Crystal in your movie.
Yeah.
But it definitely is like, it takes you out in a good way. I would say it takes you out of the movie in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. It's good. It's still fun. Again, anything that I could be like, this movie, I go, no, the movie knows exactly how long it should do this.
Totally.
And it knows the exact right amount to do it before moving on. And if it lingered here anymore, if it lingered with Westley being mad at Buttercup for too long, then it might feel like more of a pacing problem or might not fit, but they just know what they're doing. Have fun storming the castle. Classic line. I think is probably in one of the Megaplex pre-show reels.
It's gotta be. I'm almost. I would bet money.
It's gotta be.
No, I can see it in my head. It's there. It's in there.
It's got
It
it's in there.
closes one of them.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we're in agreement about this really niche topic of
Oh yeah.
local Utah chain megaplex having pre-show reels. Okay. I will say this as someone who, Parker and I, we shot a short film last weekend.
We did.
At the time of recording. And as someone who has now had to pretend like I'm unconscious being dragged around, I will say that I have a newfound respect for Cary Elwes having to act like half of his body cannot work.
He does a really good job with it.
It's very believable. And he just is, it's very good. I just wanted to give a shout out to that. It is really funny. Why didn't you say that was part of our assets? Like, and that's another line where I go, I could hear Parker saying that. I don't know. Like it just feels like some of this is me. I don't know.
I don't know.
If you talk to Amanda about this, let me know if she agrees at all.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
She might be too close. She might be like, I don't want to say that my brother took on the personality of this man.
Sure.
I need an objective observe
of the facts
of the truth. I mean, yeah, they go to the castle. It's great. They do the burning of the. I've never heard of a Holocaust cloak.
I was gonna look that up before recording. I totally forgot. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's a cloak that can be lit on fire.
Sure,
but is not. I don't know.
That's another like throwaway dry delivery that really does get me. Is they're wheeling Fezzik towards him and he's going on and on about the Dread Pirate Roberts. And Inigo is carrying the wheelbarrow and has Wesley on his back. And he's like, no. He's like, not yet. He's like, no. Light him. Just the way he says light him is really funny to me.
It would seem. Well, okay. No, yes. There's not an easy enough answer to this because when you Google what is a Holocaust cloak, it's all related to the Princess Bride.
That sounds about right.
And then there's like some obviously kind of sadder things that come up when you Google that. There's an article, there's a listing on the Princess Bride fan wiki for what a wheelbarrow is.
Oh, that's very helpful.
Would you like to know? Do we have time?
Let's hit it and go. Why not?
A wheelbarrow was an essential tool for Wesley's plan of bypassing the 60 guards at the castle gates.
Cool.
They don't really explain.
All right, well,
what a wheelbarrow is.
Could be anything.
Could be anything. I just don't know how many wheels it has.
That's true.
Okay. They get into the castle. What do you think of, Chris Sarandon doing? Maybe this is like a very common kind of fantasy villain trope. Is I feel like there's always a wedding. He's like, hurry it along.
Yeah.
Say man and wife, and then that's it. They leave.
Yeah.
Buttercup has this very brief crisis where she's like, he didn't come. It's kind of like, okay, I hope we don't linger with this for too long, and we do not. We don't, and that's great. They enter. I mean, I'm
a huge fan of the moment she has with the king where she gives him a kiss. And she's like, that's because you're so kind to me, because I'm going to be killing myself when we get to the bridal suite. Isn't that nice?
She kissed me.
It's good.
It's really good. Funny. It's really good. It's very funny. I love when they run into Christopher Guest and Inigo Montoya gets again, this movie is very funny, but it hasn't sold out its dramatic stakes. When Inigo gets to say that, you are so excited for him and so ready for this. Like it has been built up.
It's earned.
Well. It's earned. Yeah, it's very earned.
Much so.
And then again, just the exact right amount of time before Christopher Guest turns and runs. It's perfect. Yeah. And then you get, like come and get this door down, and that's very funny. The physical comedy of that is very funny. She arrives in her room, and I want your take on this line, Parker. She's going to stab herself, and Wesley says,
"You queuing me up?"
Yeah.
He says, "There's a shortage of perfect breasts in this world. It would be a pity to damage yours."
Romance,
baby.
And also kind of the sauciest that the movie gets with them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I always thought there was maybe like more like sexual passion, but there isn't, and that's kind of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
It is really funny. She goes over to kiss him, and like that again, like why don't you hold me? Gentler. Um, him standing up to
Yep.
threaten Chris Sarandon, very good. I also just want to give a quick shout out to Chris Sarandon's outfits in this movie.
Very
His
good.
costumes are fantastic, and I really liked the purple one.
The
And I
way he
really
like gathers
like
up his sleeves as he goes to sit down.
yes, and I really like the light blue one as well.
Yeah, the light blue one's really
Good
good.
costumes. The look great on him.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Chris Sarandon fan hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
I really. Oh, go ahead.
no.
I was just gonna say that, like, concurrent to this is the fight going on in the basement between,
Yes.
Rugen and Inigo Montoya,
Yes.
which I kind of think that scene is the heart of the movie. Like, genuinely, like, there's something so potent about all of that, and it's also really it's very effective to hear Mandy Patinkin talk about it, because a few years prior he had lost his father to cancer, and he talks about, he's like, that whole scene, he's like, is me finally getting to kill the thing that killed my father. He's like, me saying, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. He's like, that's me confronting cancer. Like, that is me fighting and destroying the thing that took away someone important to me. And like, I think you can feel it. Like, there is
absolutely
an emotionality that he's just nailing.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but that comes across. And I do think, earlier saying he gets away with it, I think that there is such a sincerity, and I keep using that word.
That's a good word for this movie.
But there is such a genuine connection with the character, and he's playing it so sincerely that I think that's what really, if there were to be any like hemming and hawing, I think that this scene of him, repeating this line and killing Rugen is like, that's it. Like, that's what cements this as an iconic film character.
Totally.
For sure. And is he the most iconic character from this film?
I think so, genuinely. Like, I mean, like, I know that, like, the Dread Pirate Roberts outfit is pretty iconic, but like, everybody on the planet knows my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. Like, that is the iconic character, the iconic phrase from the movie. Maybe even more so than As You Wish, I would say.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, there's just something about it. And I also love, just like, for a movie that is so storybook coded, a lot of it is very literally spelled out for you because that's what they're working with. And one of the subtle things that I love so much is they never like make a point about it, but Inigo gives him exactly the same number of wounds.
Yes.
He gets his shoulder, he gets his arm, he gets his cheeks, and then he stabs him in the gut. And like, I just love that he like returns all of the blows he was given over the years.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's very nice. It's great.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's a great moment. Yeah, I do think that's that is almost the more, I don't know, like with everything with Chris Sarandon is just very, obviously because of everything that's going on with Westley at the time, it's like that's very stationary.
Yeah.
And so this kind of being the big action finale makes a lot of sense. And
I agree.
I think that also helps it stick in the mind a lot more. And then they leave. Fezzik found 4 white horses. Then again, I do like setting up Inigo to be the next Dread Pirate Roberts. They all ride away. Good. We come back to Grandfather and Fred Savage. And it's very nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
Again, not over long. It's just him being like, yeah, maybe you can read it to me again tomorrow. And he's like, yeah. And that's it. And again, like, movie. Yeah. All I can say is that it's very tight. It's like a tight screenplay. The film is like measured to perfection, it feels. And it is just the sincerity of it really works, and I think holds up the best of anything is the sincerity behind it. And that sounds like that extends to the crew who made it as well. They were very sincere and worked very hard to make this something. So yeah. Any final thoughts?
No, let's hop into criteria, I think.
Great. Historical and technical relevance.
I mean, like, it's not doing a lot technically, but like, Yeah, it's in the Criterion Collection.
Is it in the National Film?
It is.
Great.
Was added in 2016, I believe.
Great.
It like it is one of the pop culture movies, I think.
I was gonna say,
like genuine, like it has a huge influence on culture
yeah,
in a pretty substantial way.
yeah,
We don't get Shrek without this, you know, like it
no.
really does lay the path for so many
And,
things that
and
come.
as we know, Shrek is the most important thing that ever happened to
Absolutely,
the
yeah,
culture.
that's 100%.
Each week, we should just say whether or not this film gave us Shrek or not.
Does this lead to Shrek?
Did this lead to Shrek?
And
no. Well,
is that a virtue or a sin? But
all
I
right,
do,
Parker
like,
writing his thesis live on mic.
I do feel though that like I don't know, like on historical relevance alone, I think this has a huge leg up on Kane. Like it may not be a technical influence within the world of filmmaking, but it is absolutely a cultural one.
Yeah, it's a major cultural moment. Is this our first time bringing up the Simpsons rule this year?
It might be, yeah.
I'm sure.
Positive. Yep,
I'm
I've seen it.
positive.
Yeah. I can't remember the bits right now, but they've done this, I promise you.
Yes. Um, if you wanna give it to this, I will
I think I'm gonna swing out strong for this
I
one.
won't stand in your way.
Okay.
I think there's enough kind of like, as this is often the case with pop culture, kind of weight in this piece of criteria, in this category.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is always kind of a murky situation.
Yeah.
Because it's not a direct comparison, but I think I won't stand in your way if you want to give this point to Princess Bride.
I think I'm going with it.
Okay, great. For the second point, I'm very firm in that I think that this movie is doing what it's trying to do incredibly well, if not perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know if anyone noticed, but I very subtly seeded it throughout the episode that I think this movie is doing what it's trying to do very well.
Yeah, you lay the groundwork for that nicely.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, I think it feels effortless. It is a movie that feels effortless and is clearly a labor of love.
I agree.
I have no knocks against it, really.
No, me neither.
Great. Okay, so point to Princess Bride again.
Then. I agree.
Okay. Third point. Do you like it? Do you connect with it?
A hell of a lot. A hell of a lot.
Yeah. Does this feel like one of them? I don't think this has ever been in your top 4, but it's obviously in your top 10.
It's like a top 10 for sure. Yeah.
Would you say this is like one of those core Parker? Did this? I kind of put it on you, but I didn't ask. Like, do you feel, maybe not just directly in personality, but like, do you feel this made you into the person you are? This plays a role in that.
Yeah, this is a huge part of my.
This is
huge
a
part
movie
of my
a movie that made you, in a sense.
I would absolutely agree.
Very
Which
cool.
makes it, like, as we already said at the top of the show, makes it impossible for me to be objective about this.
Which is why this is a highly subjective show.
Exactly.
Yeah. For me, I like this movie. I think it's funny. I think it's what it's trying to do. It's doing perfectly. I just don't. It's not one that comes up for me where I go, oh, I just really want to watch that again all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm very happy to revisit it when it comes up, but it's not something that I seek out all the time. Yeah, I mean, I almost would rather just not give the point to either and just kind of leave it there, but I don't think that's an option. I've never done that before. So I will give.
Show. Do what you want.
Okay, I'm gonna stand out. I'm gonna sit out on this.
Cool.
On this.
Abstain.
Yeah, I abstain. I recuse myself.
I recuse myself. Very good.
But for you, clean sweep.
Absolutely.
Taking a step back. Do you think this is better?
I feel very confident. I think it absolutely is.
Fantastic. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't really have an argument for not.
Sure.
Sometimes we have these movies come on where I go, I don't know if I feel like that's the right thing to say, but I don't have any reasons not to, and it's our show and we can do whatever we want. And
true.
And so yeah, I'm good with you saying it if you would like to.
I would love to.
Then great.
The Princess Bride is better than Citizen Kane.
Wonderful.
We did it, folks.
Yeah. Did I not put up much of a fight because Parker has kidney stones? No.
No, of course not.
Of course not. No. Fun. Yeah. I'm glad we brought this to the show.
Me too.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about why we felt we should bring it to the show, but we covered that.
I think we covered it. It's there.
It came through in the ep, if nothing else. Well, wonderful. I believe next time on the show, let me just double check this as I click through all my little tabs here. Next time is either a guest or it is another repeat director for us, F.W. Murnau's Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans.
Yes. Which I've never seen.
Which Parker's never seen.
Looking forward
I've
to
seen.
it.
I actually rewatched it earlier this year, which I'm sure we'll talk about next time.
I'm sure we will.
If not that, somebody will bring another movie. Wonderful. Well, thank you everybody for listening.
Thanks everyone.
And goodbye.
Bye.